All right, welcome back to the channel. We have another knife today. This one's a little unique actually. I was able to source this one on the Demko Facebook group from a gentleman that runs Vincent Edgeworks out of Wisconsin. If you need your straight edge razor, your knife, etc. repaired, rescaled, honed, restored, check out Vincent Edgeworks. Cool guy in the Demko group. So this is a pre-owned knife, and it is actually, now I have a custom, what I'll call a factory custom, hand-ground Demko, but I've never bought one that just some person customized themselves. Now, I think he did this through a service in some part, but I'll have to try and remember what the exact details are if I can, but let's check it out. Drawback on this particular knife was that the box was no longer available, so we'll take what we can get. Oops. So not original, not trying to be original. I was actually just more looking at this as a potential, maybe this ends up being a better daily carry or something than the factory knife. So we'll see. But let me do a quick pull up and I'll get some specs on this knife as we go here. So the there it is. Oh, and it has skiff bearings in it, so that's cool. Looks like the originals are out still, and then it must have, yeah, aftermarket back spacers. So that's cool too. It doesn't have the original like Grivery back spacer that comes with this particular model because this is an AUS 10A model. But let's take a look at it. So hopefully you can, maybe I'll do a little more of a zoom in on this one just so we can get some really good close-ups of this knife, because I feel like this is one of those ones that gets lost in the detail potentially. If the lighting's not really good, it may be hard to get good eyes on it because the black, I believe this is Micarta scales. So let me get back up here. Sorry about the wait. And let's just go ahead and pull the knife out also so you can take a look at that really cool regrind that it came with. This is an AD20.5 that's been reground and rescaled. So you can see it's still an AUS 10A. Wow, that's really deep. Whoa, that thing is sharp also. But a really deep hollow ground there. You can actually probably even see it on the video. That's how deep that hollow ground is. Super cool. And look, Vincent Edgeworks, he does know how to put an edge on a knife. That thing is shiny. Man, that is really cool. So you also see like a little bit of a different swedge there. Let me pull out a factory clip point from Demko here. So they kind of swedged the front, drew a hollow ground way up high. I guess it's pretty mirrored with, pretty similar to the original. Let's see if we maintain the full blade length when you're doing this. Looks like it. Man, that is really cool though. I mean, I love the finish on the I love the factory finish on the Demkos, but there's a reason that the Demko customs are even more interesting. There's some drawbacks of not having a factory spec. Let's get that out. And yeah, this thing's not exactly drop shut, but maybe I can do a little work on it and see what I can do. Deploys fine outward. And you can get it to shut one-handed, but it's definitely not quite as good as factory there, and that's probably more the scales, I would guess, than the blade modification. But let's see what this is all about here. This thing looks really, really sharp. So let's do a little edge test. I need some paper. I was actually just like going through some recycling going, huh, I kind of want to keep my paper around now, whereas I used to always be trying to get rid of it. All right, so factory edge. Now this is the 3D. It's certainly good. There's nothing wrong with that. But it ain't that good. That is crazy. So the guy got the edge done, and I guess this particular, let me see if I can pull up the info, sorry. It is, he did the, let's see, RGT, are these RGT? He put a 1500 grit, 18 degree per side on it. RGT Micarta scales, stainless steel standoffs, and a regrind. Maybe this is the wrong one. Rock scale design scales. So rock scale design. Oh, maybe I've got it confused. The other one that I was looking at was rock scale. So, sorry about the time wait for the info on this one. But I was just so excited I had to open it right up as soon as it got here. And let's see if I can get some info on this here. Yeah, no, I don't have all the info on it, so I'll get all the info, but it looks like a lot of what he was buying was from rock scale, so I imagine that might be, it's either RGT or rock scale or something like that. And then BGM on the regrind. So BGM, check them out. I can just tell you right now, do some really impressive work. That is a very different edge. And it just is so similar and reminiscent to the custom that it really takes your $150 AUS 10A knife and makes it feel like something very special. So I feel like if I can get this thing tuned up right, maybe I'll even dare myself to try and mess around with it a little bit live here. See what's going on with it. Okay, no longer have good lockup as expected. I have some other scales here too, just in case. I do have some factory G10 scales that I actually got from the same guy. So I could always throw those on there too if that ends up being the issue, is just that these scales. Now it's interesting, the liners run the whole way. I'm trying to remember if that's a factory spec also. Let's take a look. Yeah, the liners do run all the way on the factory spec also. So I just need to figure out what's going on with the bearings, if I were to guess. Or maybe some of these other, I think I just need some Loctite or something like that too, to like put it into the right position, but it's definitely not getting that factory Demko deployment that we know and love. But definitely better than factoring that edge. That is, those were push cuts I was generally doing there. If you do a slice cut, it is scary sharp. So I guess this BGM Regrind guy only takes it to a 220 grit edge. And then the seller took it to a 1500 grit edge. So that's pretty cool. The scales feel good. They're not like mind-blowing or anything, but they're good. Kind of a good mix of like smooth and grippy. And I'll have to double check that RGT, okay, I confirmed here, and my apologies for the wait. RGT Micarta scales, stainless steel standoffs, Yep, and no longer has the original griver gearbox, so all good there. So it kind of will end up, complementing well what I already have here. And I may even just throw the factory bearings back in if I have to get it working right. So maybe I'll just open it up and see if I can pinpoint what's going on with it. Let's play around, why not? Bring out the tool set. And the biggest concern working on a knife like this is this thing is so sharp that like you gotta really be careful not to get yourself while working on it. That would be very easy to do when a knife is this sharp. So first I'm going to go to the screws in back. Could even just need to be cleaned out if it was used a lot or something, but and I have started to get used to working on these, so they're getting pretty easy to work on at this point. Now I do have trouble sometimes when I'm trying to talk on the video and purport to know what I'm talking about knives while also taking care of this. But that aside, if I can focus, I generally find these to be very easy to work on. So I'll put that in those two over there. Those two screws are longer, so you just have to keep that straight. Let's just get in here and see what's going on with it. What better knife to take apart than one that's already been totally taken apart and messed with? Then you're not worried about spoiling the factory build or anything like that. Okay. The real key here on this next step is when you go to remove the scales, try not to lose the spring for the shark lock. They're not big and not easy to see. The color is not, it's not particularly polished or anything like that. So when you open this up, there's like a pretty good chance of losing that spring. So scale, I just want to kind of see here, pretty similar looking to the, this is a factory upgrade from Demko. It looks pretty darn similar. Certainly some differences, but looks pretty to spec here. Kind of curious on the strength of the micarta. The G10's a lot harder, so that's interesting. So let's see if we can do this without anyone getting hurt or losing a spring. Oh, there's the spring, came out, but luckily right into here, and we're good to go. No spring loss. Now, I don't know if that's a factory spring or anything like that, so that's also considerable. I feel like I have some extras somewhere if I had to make that change. So interesting. This would certainly explain it, why it's opening how it is. I didn't catch it, but they're the skiff washers, not skiff bearings, if I'm seeing this right. So that would definitely explain the feeling there. You're not going to have a fast deployment on a washer. Yeah, that explains it. Okay, so that's great to go figure out, and I can just go ahead and make an easy decision to throw the bearings back in, because one of my favorite things about these knives is how they run on bearings. So As long as it looks like all the balls are in there. Throw these skiffs. I think they're skiff at least. Who knows? Maybe it's even a skiff bag, but not a skiff washer. Who knows what's going on there? Into there. And then now I'm really curious why I have it open. If I can confirm if these are, so they're definitely steel, not titanium. That was what I was kind of wondering, is if they were titanium. There's a titanium upgrade you can get, but not the case here. So, okay, which, you know, doesn't matter. All right, so now I can very rarely remember if it matters or what to do, but I'm pretty sure you have the bearings facing away from the blade, or I should say like the show side of the bearing away from the blade, like this. But I can't recall for sure, and I don't know if it actually matters, to be honest. I'm trying to be very careful around this blade just because it's that sharp. Love it, but also respect it. And then what I'm going to do is just throw a little bit of, while I have it open, oil in here just in case. That closed down. Get a little on here and a little bit on top. Doesn't take much. Get a little in there. You can always add more later if you need to, but you don't really want that pouring out all over your stuff. So now I have to make the critical decision, the very hard and critical and important decision. Oh, almost did it again. If you've watched on my videos, I've forgotten to put stuff back in before while I'm talking, as I was right there. But I got to make the decision as to which scales I want to use. Do I want to go back to like a factory style G10? They're not really factory style technically, but the aftermarket Demko branded G10. I think I'll stick with these RGT and see what I think, because I have run a similar G10, even though it wasn't a factory Demko one before. And I didn't mind it, but I didn't love it either. So let's go ahead and get this back in the screen for you a little bit. And before I go too far, I think I got everything in there correctly. I can just go ahead and pinch this and make sure it operates. Feels good. And I'm going to just go ahead and put in the pivot screw or pivot hardware, whatever you'd like to call it, first. I'm tempted to throw some Loctite on there. Probably a good idea, but I want to make sure it all works first before I do that, really. So I'm just going to get that to like just as soon as it gives me a little resistance, and then throw in all the other hardware. Is my typical methodology here to trying to get everything back in correctly. Oops. T6 screws are always a little tricky to work with there. Yeah, you know, I actually think I prefer the Grivery scales to these a little bit. It's kind of weird to say. These look a little cooler, definitely more tactical, but there's something about just the factory Grivery scales that I just don't mind, I guess. And then last one here, and then we get the flip sides. Okay. I'll just go in the order I took them out. Again, just as soon as I feel resistance, I'm stopping. A, strip the screws, or B, overdo it before I even know if the knife's going to be working correctly. So what I'll do is get to this point of resistance. In the wrong spot or something. There we go. Get to that point of resistance. Hit the pause button. Come back on the other side because these right here are going to spin, I feel like, unless I have the ones on the other side. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just didn't put them in far enough. Boom. And then I'm going to work on the pivot hardware before I go any further. That's my Demko. Okay, so that's still loose. So let's get this in to a decent point. That's what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, that's why we buy these. All right, so it's super solid lockup now. Yeah, I thought I may have overdone that a little bit. So I'll probably Loctite it like right about there. Just still getting a little bit of play, which is unfortunate, but let me get all the screws in the back and see if, again, from here I'm just going finger tight. I'm not trying to really wrench these suckers. T6 hardware, super easy to strip, and just doesn't need to be that tight. Okay, so those are all in tight now. Knife's working well. Let me zoom back out a little bit here. So, oops, that was on me. Boom, boom, boom. Just a tiny bit of blade play in there still though. See if I can cinch that up one little bit tighter without losing my ability to deploy. Still just getting a twinge, but sweet. All right, now I'm feeling good about this. When I wasn't deploying at first, I was like, what kind of sketchy scales are these? But now I feel really good about this thing. This is a cool knife. So let's get you a nice little close-up there. Oof, look at that. To make this knife, you're probably spending 60 or 70 on the scales, so 150 on the knife, 60 or 70 on the scales. I think it's 60 or 70 for the regrind. So you're getting up in the 250 range. This one even has some other stuff with the, back spacers, like a more custom style knife would. Let's just take one more look. I mean, you just cannot look at that blade too many times. This company is just doing a really nice job on their regrinds. Whew, that is sweet. You can really feel that texture on there. You can really see that like deep hollow grind. See, that's not like a straight line there. Really feel it. It just feels so thin behind the edge. Now, probably lose some of your toughness in doing that, but man, I mean, that is pretty badass. So yeah, I think we can call it at that. I'll get the Loctite out and finish this up offline, but really cool knife, really cool concept of taking, and I wish I had a Grivery one out, but I don't happen to have one out right now, but a factory Demko, and kind of customizing it. I've seen a lot of cool stuff out there, different colors on hardware and stuff that people are doing. And yeah, this is just a cool example of what's possible. You don't have to go drop $2,500 on a custom to get, you know, a very nice pocket carry custom kind of feel. You can do that for about 1/10 of the price. You're not going to be in Magna Cut, and you're not, you know, doing the big, you know, huge blade like this guy. But, you know, for the everyday carry, I don't personally use one of these. I think they're really cool for certain use cases and for certain users, but for me, this could be a really interesting EDC. Oh, one last thing I want to check before we end this one out. Let's check out the weight with this micarta. Curious how that compares to Grivery. Grivery is obviously very light. So, and you know, there's also a regrind on there, so there's some material taken out. So 3.52, you know, this is a little bit of a different variable with the shark's foot and stuff, but they're generally about the same weight. Yeah, so this knife's like a 1/4 ounce lighter almost, 0.2 ounces lighter. I'm thinking that's mostly metal out of the blade. You know, maybe the micarta is a little lighter than the Grivery, but I wouldn't think much. So, pretty cool. Definitely worth checking out what some of these third-party vendors are doing with Demkos, and potentially putting together one that you feel captures the spirit of what you like in a knife without having to break the bank. So, nice work from our friend at Vincent Edgeworks, and very excited to have this one. So thanks for stopping by. Please like, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Take care. One last shot for the outgoing viewer there.